May I come in, sir?
Please come in.
Good afternoon, sir. Good afternoon.
Good
ma'am.
afternoon.
Good afternoon,
Please
ma'am.
sit down.
Thank you, ma'am.
Neel Sharma,
Yes, sir.
you're from Mumbai,
Yes, sir.
and your option was political science
Yes,
and IR. You've done material science and engineering
Yes,
from
sir.
IIT Kanpur. You worked as data something. Let me check. Data scientist
Yes, sir.
at Loyalitics AI Consultancy,
Yes.
Bangalore. Before that also, you've just been there for a month. Okay. Tell me something about Maharashtra. Compare Maharashtra with, say, Karnataka.
Uh,
According to different economic indicators.
Yes, sir. Sir, on the similarity side, both Maharashtra and Karnataka are one of the top contributor to the national GDP. So Maharashtra contributes somewhere around 14% and Karnataka contributes somewhere around 10%. So then there are two major, or I think majority of the contribution from both of these states come from a few regions. So for example, Bangalore is one of the major contributor to Karnataka, whereas Navi Mumbai is one of the major contributor to Maharashtra. So population wise, Maharashtra has somewhere around I think 15 crore population, whereas Karnataka has somewhere around 10 crore. Sir, I'm not sure about the exact numbers as of now. Sir, both have a young demography. So Maharashtra has somewhere around 40-45% young people, whereas Karnataka has on the similar range. So these are the similarity side. So on the different side, the culture differs, the language differs, and I think the cuisines are something that differs in both these states.
The Karnataka Chief Minister was here yesterday,
sir.
sitting on a protest. What was he protesting about?
So there were several concerns that the chief minister raised. So one was the funds devolved by the center was not in accordance to the finance commission. That was the that was the concerns and also there were some schemes in which under which the funds were not devolved appropriately to the Karnataka state.
But the government has replied saying they are following the finance commission recommendations.
Yes, sir.
Completely.
Yes, sir.
Then what is the problem?
So the chief minister raised a concern that the finance commission, apart from the horizontal devolution, it has also said that there has to be extra devolution in the interim budget, and I think this was the part that was missed by the finance minister in the interim budget, and that is main reason. And apart from that, the GST compensation also forms a part of the issue, because after the compensation has stopped, the chief minister says that the pre-GST revenue growth was much higher than the revenue growth that the state is seeing now. Hence, there has to be some compensation mechanism for that as well.
Don't you think they should worry more about whatever funds is available, how it is being used? There have been a lot of complaints about Karnataka being run by contractors.
So yes, I think the efficiency of fund is one of the broader issue that plagues not just Karnataka, in fact, across the nation. And I think that is something that needs more of a micromanagement. So yes, I think I agree with that proposition.
Okay, have you heard of multidimensional poverty?
Yes, sir.
How is it measured? Whatever Niti Aayog has said.
Yes, sir. Sir, so there are three broad classification under the multi-dimensional poverty, and under those classification there are sub-indices. So it rates the region based on the health indicators, the educational indicators, and the standard of living. Sir, so health indicators include the under 5 mortality, the Sir, I'm unable to recall the other indicators. in the
Okay.
health.
What was the earlier method of measuring poverty?
So the poverty has been measured by the consumption-based parameters. So how much is the consumption based on a basket of goods? So the basket of goods are decided, and then what is the cost of those consumption? But that was a very unidimensional measurement based on certain goods and services, whereas multidimensional incorporates certain intangible assets as well.
There have been concerns raised that the old method should be still used because the new method does not have income or consumption as the deciding factors, and in the process we are with people maybe having education and health facilities and maybe having a bank account, but they don't have income for day-to-day expenses.
Right, sir. Sir, I think the indicators taken in the multidimensional are a proxy to everything that a consumption would entail. So for example, if I'm talking about cooking gas, if I'm talking about electricity, the availability of schooling, so I think these all are a part that would be like something that one would draw from his income. Then I think it solves the purpose. Consumption, sir, I think it doesn't weigh or doesn't measures the poverty as a whole.
Okay.
Thank you, sir.
Neel,
Yes, sir.
good morning.
Good morning, sir.
This is
Good
your
afternoon.
Good afternoon. This is your third interview.
Yes, sir.
So, what was the performance in the earlier interviews?
Sir, I did score decent number, but my scores in the mains were not very well. Yes, sir.
So, since you've studied PSIR,
Yes, sir.
what's the issue that is presently broiling between Iran and Pakistan? What is the conflict about?
So the immediate reason for the conflict was the firing of a missile by Iran in the Pakistani territory, and then a retaliation by the Pakistani army. So the reason for that was the presence of some militant group that are harmful for the Irani interest. That was what was claimed by Iran. So that's the immediate reason. But I think the conflict between Iran and Pakistan dates back to the Iranian Revolution, 1979, because Iran sees Pakistan as a proxy, or I would say on the axis of United States, and there is a deep anti-America sentiments in Iran. Hence, Pakistan and Iran are in a constant tussle.
Very close by in the Red Sea,
Yes, sir.
we have seen a lot of action recently.
Yes, sir.
What is the reason that this particular region around the Red Sea is very much susceptible to Houthi attacks or the piracy? What are the different reasons?
So one reason is the proximity to Yemen. The Houthi rebel groups operate in Yemen. So second is the proximity to the Somalia and the Horn of Africa region. Sir, and since these regions are poverty stricken, hence piracy comes as a natural way for the communities from these regions to fulfill their basic needs. Sir, and also these are important choke points, so trade choke points. So that becomes a kind of high impact regions for any attack, for any attacker to convey their message.
So, if I were to ask you, what are the 3 steps that should be taken to resolve the conflict or to make it safe for as a sea lane of communication?
So may I take a few seconds for that? Sir, I think the primary and the immediate step would be to have the security set up for that region. So, for example, alliances and having military equipments to guard the trade routes. That would be one. The second would be to have the internal issues of the countries surrounding that region to be resolved. For example, the poverty or the social dimension of the Horn of Africa region and the Yemen region needs to be resolved. So then third would be the bilateral conflict that is going on in the region. So between, let's say, Iran and Saudi, between Israel and Palestine. I think that has a spillover effect in these regions. So that has to be curbed.
Okay. The state of Alabama in the US
Yes, sir.
was in news recently regarding something. Are you aware?
I'm sorry, sir. I'm not aware of that.
It was a news regarding an execution which was carried out by the state. They used a method which is considered against the human rights. Are you aware?
Sorry, sir. I'm not able to
Okay.
recall exactly.
Coming back to India, the age of the judges of the Honorable Supreme Court as well as the High Court.
So,
The Parliamentary Standing Committee has submitted some recommendations about increasing the age of judges. What's your take on that?
sir, I think with the increasing life expenditure, with the improved health facilities, I think I'm very much in favor of increasing the age for both Supreme Courts as well as High Court judge, because with the kind of treatments and the kind of facilities and medical science we have, I think the judges are very well placed to work beyond 65. So let's say 70, 75. And I think taking cue from United States, where a judge is a judge until his last. So I think that is something that India could adopt.
So, Neel, one final question. I'll give you a statement
Yes.
and I would request your interpretation of that.
Yes, sir.
It says that the only satisfactory and the lasting solution to the vexed human problems will not be found in the statute books, but in the conscience of the men in power.
Yeah, yes. So the statement means, or the statement calls that the ultimate maker of the destiny or the ultimate shaper of the world are not just something that is written in the books, but rather people who control the power. So it gives the agency to the power holder. So as to supplement that quote, even Ralph Emerson said something on a similar line, that institution is a lengthened shadow of a man. Gandhiji said that it's a moral conscience that plays an important role. So I think that way, people, if there are good people holding good power, I think the journey or the shape of whatever organization that they are commanding will be in better.
So it is the man behind the machine that will make the difference.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Neel.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah. Neel, what is the meaning of Neel?
Ma'am, Neel basically means the color indigo, but my name has a mythological connotation, because Neel or blue color is usually associated with Lord Shiva. Hence the color Neel.
Right. Now, I'm just looking upon that you have done your material engineering. Is it that you have got the interest in that, or because of the option you want to go in IIT Kanpur only and therefore you have to opt for that? What is the reason behind that?
Ma'am, so honestly, the reason was simply my rank, and that was, and I had to go to the, top 2 to 3 IITs, and this was the field that I was getting in the trend order. So that was purely
In
trend.
the other IITs, you were not getting your own option. What was your preference?
Ma'am, my preference was computer science,
Okay.
then electrical, mechanical, and then material science. So that was the fourth among my
It's the
preference.
fourth one.
Yes, ma'am.
What exactly you have done in this material engineering, and how you can practically apply that knowledge in the real field?
Ma'am, so in materials, to answer the first part, material science, we played around with a lot of materials. We studied different properties of materials, and on the experimentation level, we did something so that we can tweak the properties and make it relevant to the usage, day-to-day usage or industry usage. So, for example, I vividly remember one material, ceramics. We were working on a titanium oxide ceramics, and we were able to tweak the properties such that it was able to resist fire or heat to a very large temperature range. So that was one of my work. And to directly use this in, let's say, civil services, ma'am, I think it wouldn't be directly useful to civil services, because it's a very technical field. Ma'am, I think in the process, I learned that being a material scientist, you always have to go to the depth, to the root cause of things. So, for example, if a particular metal is not performing according to what we want, so how do we make sure that it performs? How do we add the different layers to it? How do we?
You mean to say that you will transform it into an alloy or any
Yes,
other
ma'am.
thing?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
And so you need to go to the microstructure of that. You need to see how are those microstructures aligned. How can you add different impurities or maybe something like that. So that is basically the main philosophy that I learned in material science. But I think, ma'am, given the importance of semiconductors, that is one field where material science would be very directly used.
That means you will be able to use this knowledge in your civil services also.
Yes, ma'am. I mean, not across everything, but if and where my specialization would be required.
Okay, that means brass is an alloy or a pure metal?
Ma'am, it's an alloy.
It's an alloy of?
Yes, ma'am. Ma'am, it's an alloy of. Sorry, ma'am, I'm not able to recall exactly. It's copper and. Ma'am, I'm unable to recall the exact element.
Okay, now recently the budget has come. It's not very recent, but still there was a thing that Garib Kalyan, Desh Ka Kalyan.
Yes, ma'am.
Can you give me some schemes which they have come up with for this?
I'm sorry, ma'am, I'm unable to recall the exact scheme under this umbrella term.
Okay. Okay. Can you give me some scheme under the umbrella of empowering youth?
Sure, ma'am. Ma'am, so one of the scheme is the Skill India mission. Ma'am, there has been a corpus of 1 lakh crore for the technology development that would entail AI and the skill training across the emerging technologies. That is
Okay.
number 2. Ma'am, and sorry, ma'am, I'm unable to recall other schemes as of now.
Okay. Is it not that there's some more, they have allocated to IITs, AIMS and all the other thing, more budget?
Yes,
And
ma'am.
that is for the youth only.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Thank you for the.
Okay, fine. Now, tell me one thing, that is there, you have studied, I was just going through your form, you have studied from the public school.
Yes, ma'am.
Were you satisfied with with your school
Ma'am,
inputs which they have given you?
Yeah, ma'am. So it's a public school, but it's public is in the name, but it's actually a private school. Yeah, ma'am. I think my school had.
But have you found out some difference between the public school and a private school or a government school? You can say. What are the lacunas of the government school?
Ma'am, one thing which I can say, and this is based on the comparison that I am making with one of my friend who was studying in a government school. Ma'am, public school are very fast to adopt changes or adopt new things, new trends. So, for example, private school. So, private school has this new trend of adopting to, let's say, coding, which was very fast adopted in my school as compared to government school. The various kind of cultural activities that private school had was very different from the public school. And I think these are the two.
Okay, as the last question, suppose you have been selected.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, would you like to make some difference in the public school method of teaching, the infrastructure, or what you would like to do there?
Ma'am, sure. Ma'am, I think one would be infrastructure, ma'am, because infrastructure is something that is very important for a child that is in school. So, for example, good benches, smart classes, something that I would want to work on. Ma'am, second would be the involvement of parents in the, or I would say parents, teacher, the community that private school has. Ma'am, that is, I think, missing in public school. So, I think that could be incorporated. And I think also private school has this training, or I would say bringing the experts from different regions so that they can constantly engage with the students and have them updated. So I think that part is something that could be brought in the public school as well.
Okay.
Hello, Neel.
Hi, ma'am.
Your name creates a lot of curiosity,
Yes.
be it mythological or historical. So, do you know a book, Neel Darpan?
Yes, ma'am.
Who wrote it and what is the theme of the book?
Ma'am, Neel Darpan was written by Deenbandhu Mitra in somewhere around 18th century. So this was around the Indigo Revolution that was happening in the Bengal region. So it was a play that was talking about the plight of the indigo planters and the atrocities that the British Britishers imposed on them.
Okay. So the Champaran satyagraha was also surrounding the same
Yes, ma'am.
issue, indigo
Yes,
cultivation. Was it an extension of indigo rebellion of Bengal in 1859? Champaran satyagraha happened in 1917. Is there
Yes, ma'am.
any similarity? Was it an extension of the same? Or what is your view?
Ma'am, as far as I recall, the indigo, the revolt that happened in the 18th century, that led to the complete stopping of indigo cultivation from the Bengal region. So this Champaran revolution, though it might have some relics from the plantation, because plantation was a continuous process, but it is distinct from the revolt that happened in the 1856 and 1857.
Okay. Your optional is PSIR.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. I want to know your views about, is it fortune or the hard work? Which is more important for a success?
Ma'am, I would say hard work is something that creates the base. It is a prerequisite. Beyond that, fortune also, I think, and to a very significant level, plays a role in any success.
Now, is there any political thinker who have talked in the same lines on the same topic?
Sorry, ma'am, I'm unable.
I'll give you a hint. Machiavelli. What is his view about fortune, prowess, and how a prince can run a state properly? Is it the prowess more or the fortune more, which facilitates better handling of the state affairs? Have you read about Machiavelli's thinking?
Ma'am, I did read, but I'm not able to dig deeper into the prowess and fortune part. Though I remember he talked something on that lines. But
All right, no problem. So I can see in extracurricular activities, you have mentioned that you are head films and media council, IIT Kanpur.
yes, ma'am.
So there is a lot of talk about the creative freedom when it comes to OTT platforms
Yes, ma'am.
and the films. And then if there is uncensored freedom given to OTT platforms, then it is also said that a lot of the content is creating negative psychological impact.
Sure.
So what is your take on this? The creative freedom balanced with the right impact of the OTT platforms, the media which brings. How will you make a balance between the two?
Yes, ma'am. Ma'am, you rightly said creative freedom is something that comes as a natural part of OTT. But I think, ma'am, behind the creative freedom, there has to be two things. One is the intent behind the creative freedom, and the impact or maybe whatever is going on in the name of creative freedom, if that is negatively impact. So are we kind of skeptical or criticizing that in the OTT platform itself? I think that is something that one needs to. One cannot go unabashed or uncontrolled with just the creative freedom. There has to be some kind of guardrails. There has to be some kind of reasonable restriction, if I could use that term, behind every OTT or maybe any creative freedom, I believe.
Okay. And then my last question is, are you reading about delimitation exercise which is being talked about and the issues, challenges pertaining to delimitation exercise?
Yes.
And can you also tell me what's delimitation, what are the challenges, and is there any international practices which we can follow and solve the challenges related to delimitation exercise carried in our country?
Sure, ma'am. Ma'am, so delimitation is basically the redrawal of the constituencies so that there is a kind of balance or equity per voter. So every vote carries one value. That's the basic idea behind delimitation. As and when population increases, there has to be redrawal so that you compensate for the population increase, and then that translates to increase in the seats in the parliament as well. So I think that's delimitation. Ma'am, the drawbacks of delimitation or the challenges of delimitation is, one is that with increased population, there will be increased number of parliamentarians, so crossing somewhere around 900,000. And so how is the debates, or how are we going to ensure that every parliamentarian has a voice? So that is one of the that is one challenge. Other challenge is the regional differences. So, for example, states that have high population growth versus states that have low population growth. So, will there be a parity among those in terms of representation?
Isn't it not going against that? At one hand, we are targeting population control,
Yes,
and based on population, we are selecting the number of seats for each constituency. So, as we can see, there was a news also that UP, Bihar, Rajasthan, their number of seats are increasing,
Right,
whereas the states who have decreased control the population are on the losing side.
Right,
So, isn't it a big challenge?
Exactly, ma'am. So this regional difference is one of the challenges, ma'am. I think based on population, if we just keep the delimitation based on population, this is going to arise. So I think a solution for that, in my mind, would be to go with what Finance Commission did. So there has to be some kind of demographic performance indicator that could be incorporated in this delimitation exercise, and also drawing, as you asked, drawing from the international best practices. So I think I'm unable to recall which country, but there is a best practice where you provide a minimum seat to all the states, and then some additional factor is added based on population, so that there is a kind of parity and also population is taken into consideration. Thank you.
Hello.
Hello, ma'am.
Neel, you are currently working.
Yes, ma'am.
And as you answered to ma'am that it was purely your rank that you opted for this course.
Yes, ma'am.
But what now motivates you to leave such a high-paying job?
Yes, ma'am.
Why are you trying so hard?
Ma'am, so I have grown in a family, ma'am, where civil services is always something that is looked upon, and based on the interaction that I have had with my friends who are working in the service, ma'am, so I feel that somewhere there is a kind of social prestige attached to this job, and something that I feel that in a long run, if one has to work for, let's say, next 30 years, and if his job is something that is well recognized, along with giving him the opportunity to make some scalable impact. So I think that is something which is missing in the private sector, at least in the initial years. And I think civil services in that manner provides the combination, the best of both the worlds, I would say.
So you are saying that even such high-paying jobs doesn't give that sense of security?
Yes, ma'am. So satisfaction, I would say. Security, definitely. Even IS takes care of your basic security.
Okay. And do you agree that your recent experience of being a data scientist will help you in civil services?
Yes, ma'am, indeed.
How?
I do agree. Because the government is transforming and data is penetrating almost every part of governance, whether that be tax administration, whether that be traffic management, whether that be agriculture. I think I have been a practitioner of data for the last 2 years now, and even in my college I did some data work. So when I see the scale at which data can be deployed, the way private sector is deploying, if government starts deploying, and in fact they are. So I think my role or my experience as a on ground worker of data would be definitely be helpful in the civil services.
Okay, Neel. Neel, you are from Navi Mumbai, right?
Yes, ma'am.
And Mumbai Trans-Harbour Link has been finally inaugurated, which
Yes,
was
ma'am.
first proposed in 1961.
Yes, ma'am.
What took it so long?
Ma'am, so there are a few reasons. One, when the project was planned, it was way ahead of its time. So Navi Mumbai was not a city that was even settled. So there is a direct connotation of what's the ROI of creating this trans-harbour. Later on, once the city started to develop, there was this political issue regarding land acquisition, which was other. And also technology was not very much, I would say, advanced in the 1970s, 80s to even execute this project on the scale. So I think now we are in the right time with the right technology and with the right need that the Trans-Harbour has been executed.
And has it impacted the development of that region?
Ma'am, yes, because both the sides, it has just inaugurated, so the development benefits could be gauged only after, let's say, a few years. But after the building of Trans-Harbour, there has been several projects that came up that connects the route through which the Trans-Harbour passes in Navi Mumbai, the land-based route. So I think that is a there are positive sentiments around development. So yes, ma'am.
Okay, and you have mentioned that you in your hobbies that run a Edtech platform on data analytics.
Yes, ma'am.
And right now we have seen the rise and fall of a giant Edtech
Yes.
Byju's. What mistakes should I avoid if I want to start in Edtech? What are the mistakes I should avoid?
Ma'am, so if I could list a few, one would be to never overvalue the company. So Byju's had a valuation multiple that went around 400 times the revenue. So that is something that should be avoided. Ma'am, second, the acquisitions that Byju's did was very, I would say, uncontrolled. So acquisition should be very prudent, I would say. And I think third would be the marketing or the sales strategy that Byju's adopted was created a very negative word of mouth. And I think word of mouth is important in India. So there has to be some kind of regulation around that.
Okay, so my last question to you will be on a Vipassana meditation.
Yes.
So recently there was a case where a 17-year-old boy killed his mother for not preparing his breakfast.
Okay.
So can Vipassana meditation help in combating these anger issues?
Ma'am, absolutely, I would say yes, because Vipassana, the prime, I would say, the central idea of Vipassana is to manage your mind, to not let your mind vary across the extremes of the emotions. So whether that be sudden spurt of anger or maybe even extreme joy, I think if that is avoided, which Vipassana provides a very guided route to go there, I think this kind of incidents could be avoided.
Just step out. Please go ahead. Look, you are very good. The board has unanimously agreed that you are very good. Your demeanor is good. The way you speak, voice modulation, everything is good.
Thank you, sir.
Now, since you have time, the date hasn't come yet. It will be in March,
Yes.
after 15th of March.
Yes, after 15 months.
So you have 1.5 months. You can revise everything.
Yes, sir.
Now, by now, you must be knowing what kind of questions are
Yes,
asked. I mean, you will never know what actually will be asked. But the questions are mainly on the DAF, your options, current affairs, geopolitical shifts, these kinds.
Sure.
Kindly go through your relation with neighbors. That is very important.
Sure, sir.
So go through all this, revise everything, and we feel you should get through this time
Sure, sir.
after 2 interviews.
Yes, sir. Hoping.
And that obviously means if you've
Ma'am,
done
I'm hopeful.
well in the
How many got in the interview last two times?
Sir, 178 and 175 before that.
very good.
Sure, sir.
Prepare, work hard, because you've reached this level 2 times before.
Sure, sir.
You should not miss this time.
Sure, sir.
Just a minor thing when I asked you about the Red Sea reasons. So you tell that it becomes a natural choice for them to resort to piracy.
Yes, sir.
So-
Sir, my words didn't.
Yeah. Otherwise, it's okay. But just the
They are compelled, I would say. Compulsion
Compelled.
draws.
compelled is a better word.
Yes, sir.
Natural choice becomes a little difficult.
Sir, my
Otherwise-
mistake there.
You're good to go.
Sure, sir.
But to resolve the issue, don't you think diplomacy is a better answer than anything else?
Yes, sir. But I think I missed that part also. That diplomatically solving the
Yes.
multi.
Throwing bombs and missiles are not going to help.
Sure, sir.
Okay. All the best.
Sure, sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you, ma'am.